Hello, welcome to Coffee with Avila. I'm Aviana Lemaire. I'm going to talk about making content for those of us who make it. Or just in general, because a lot of these points really are going to apply to a huge amount of society these days, since making content is almost a given in some way, shape, or form. And also because this is my ADHD experience of wanting and trying to get something done that is important to me, and that I truly do think can serve a purpose. I'm already a little tired, so we're gonna see. We'll find out. If this video's up, then I got through it. But I'm sitting here today and I was about to record a video, and then I said to myself, I don't think I feel like recording a video because I really want to talk. I got myself together. I dealt with every other thing. And then I finally got to a place where the atmospheric confusion and all the things that were kind of inhibiting me in my way toward planning my day the way I wanted to disappeared well enough that I could kind of function. There's so much going on, and there are so many aspects of how my brain is interacting with the environment. Sometimes I get up and I want to record very quickly and very early because I'm fresh out of bed, nothing horrible has happened. Nothing stressful, no one else's things have gotten in my way yet. And then I don't end up doing that because I know for the most part, in general in my life, recording as soon as I wake up is not comfortable for me. I want to do some self-care. I want to eat. I want to hydrate. And there's a lot of stuff I kind of need to do in order to set myself up so that I feel comfortable starting my day. Very rarely do I get up and just feel like, I can start doing a million things right now. But I often will want to do things outside of my own chosen timing and my necessary timing and my energetic timing, because I am busy thinking about how having an incompatible living environment that's just incompatible with me has such a toll. It takes such a huge toll on anything I want to do and the outcome of any of my chosen projects. So I have been doing this for a while, and I have been impeded in the weirdest ways. Now, a lot of us go through this. You start recording videos. You're learning things that have to do with your particular situation. There's a lot of stuff I already knew, and I knew how to do it, but I functionally couldn't get it done for various reasons at the time. Lots of reasons. I don't need to go into them, but maybe you don't have the right, like at a certain point I didn't have the right equipment. At one point I had what was supposed to be a nice camera, but it wasn't recording in the proper definition. For some reason it looked horrible every time I uploaded it, and I couldn't figure out why. The best I could find was some information online that it was doing it for other people, but I couldn't find any reason why, and I couldn't find any solution, and I couldn't figure out one. So then I was down a camera. Stuff like that ended up happening. So it'll look like I had kind of a huge amount of growth just learning and feeling my way through until I get better sound and better images. But it really was just, I had a bunch of plans, I already knew what to do, and the stuff that was available to me, for whatever reason, wasn't working. You know, I'd purchase a microphone and suddenly I wasn't able to use it, it wasn't working properly. So nobody else knows or cares necessarily that my stuff is there and I know how to do it better. But it's just kind of not coming off properly. And so I would record something and I'd end up thwarted because it's like, oh, okay, I can hardly hear the audio. It's like it didn't pick up. Some of those with the bad mic, I would record and there was no audio because the mic wasn't picking up properly. So then I had a video where I'm either going to do a voiceover, which for me wasn't going to work. It was too much extra work. I had another computer then. And long story short, it wasn't going to handle another thing and more steps. It was hard enough to edit videos already. So long story short, I end up in this place where I'm figuring out now how I can make all of my situations work for me to record, and I can get my stuff together I can edit in the way that's easiest, after filming in the way that's easiest, after setting up in the way that's easiest, after getting myself together in the way that's easiest, and then upload and put it out and all this different stuff. And I want to get this stuff out. I know I have a purpose when I speak. I know I'm called to tell some of my stories and to share some of this information, and I know why I'm doing it. And I think it's very important because we, as a neurodivergent community, we need a touchstone with others of us. We need those of us who can, right? If we can and if it's safe, we need to self-advocate. And we need to witness more of ourselves advocating. We need to hear the profoundly human aspect of being neurodivergent in this world today, where things keep changing so quickly that now I can just sit here in an environment where I quickly shoot off a video, some content on some tech, and upload it to some websites like that's just the most normal thing to do in life. When honestly, I think I was the person, I think I'm the last generation to grow up in a world where it's very much not the most obvious thing to be uploading and making content and all that stuff. I really feel the difference in a day without participating in social media and content creation, and a day where I am participating in it greatly, because I remember what life was what life was like when it wasn't there. I remember when the internet was new. I remember when people had to have a whole lot of knowledge to have any kind of thing online, because for the most part people were setting up their own websites and they were coding and all this stuff. It was a lot of work. There were chat rooms, and I'm just thinking about how I grew up in this one world. I've easily adapted to this one. Social media didn't throw me off too much, because I take a certain approach to it, and maybe I'll make a video about that. It's a whole different subject. But my experience of it, it hasn't ruined my life or taken away all of my time or anything, with caveats for when I'm too tired to do anything else. But that's not peak life. There's a reason for that happening, but that's another video. So I get to this point where I'm now putting stuff online and I'm sharing things that I know are important. And I look at how some of us have been blindsided by some information and some experiences, some personal and some only personal because there are other people I know are in the neurodivergent community. And when I speak, I honestly do it because from my heart's heart, I'm thinking about how some of us don't survive because we believe we're alone, and we believe we're inherently diseased, or that everything about us is wrong. And I want to be the person who sits here where 100% always, if your experience is all of that, I mean, no one's going to change your own truth. I'm just talking through the sirens now. At this point, I'm too tired of dealing with my day. If you have those feelings, I'm not telling you those feelings are wrong. If that's your experience, I'm not telling you that experience is wrong or made up. All of that stuff is valid. At the same time, I'm telling you and the world from my personal perspective and my feelings. I personally am not someone I know to be disabled or to have disabled communication skills or a communication disorder, most definitely. I am sitting here because I know the impact it made in my life to hear the actually autistic point of view in a world. Oh, thank God the siren just started to go away. It was really starting to really pierce through the side of my head to the point where it was about to hurt. I just heard it start to disappear. I can still hear it, but it's almost gone now. But long story short, I know the difference that it made making sure my hair isn't on my mic. When I ran into the actual autistic society, and I had never heard people expressing themselves in ways that sounded 100% like me. The whole of my life, I hadn't been able to relate. I could relate sympathetically, where I have the mental capacity to understand what it's probably like for somebody else through thought and logic and awareness and knowledge. And I definitely was always empathic. I have empathy and I am an empath. So I have empathy, for those who don't know. I have empathy means, I'm feeling what other people are going through. So once I know they're going through something, I'm having the broken heart or the embarrassment, or my body's going through a carbon copy in my own way of what they're experiencing. And I'm an empath, which means sometimes I'm going through carbon copies of other people's stuff and I don't even know whose stuff it is yet. It's a whole different level of thing. So I could relate in that way, but I couldn't relate in the way where somebody was talking to me online, face to face or voice to voice or whatever it is, and they're just telling me, yeah, actually, I find it kind of maddening. I wear socks and then the seam has to line up perfectly, or I can't stand them on my feet, and then I walk in them in a little while and they really start to hurt, so I can't wear socks like that. The only kind of socks I can wear are this material because that material breathes, and this kind of seam because that kind of seam doesn't sit in the most painful place. And I remember this, I was reading online some oddies talking about socks and underwear and seams and tags and materials, and I'm like, the sock thing got me. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not sure where it was that it started, but it was a whole conversation about the sensory storm of having all of this different stuff pressing into you and on you and making you unsettled and uncomfortable all day, and no one else quite getting it, but you having to go out of your way to find things that'll even work just so you can live and wear clothing and somehow manage to do both successfully. And the moment when I realized I can't handle this anymore, first time in my whole life when people are speaking my thoughts and experiences like they're on my planet with my species and everything else, the moment when I was like, that's it, I relate too hard, I can't believe that you sound exactly like me, it was honestly somebody talking about socks and the seam on the socks. And I'm thinking about how I've had moments where, when I tell you this is not how I want to conduct my life, it's not desirable to me, I cannot put enough emphasis on that. I have been in stores walking and my shoes were fine and had space and were wide enough for my feet, but my feet were blazing in horrible pain because my socks were synthetic and the material that I had stretched so neatly and softly over my foot just was going and just crunching down across my toes, cramping them to the point where they couldn't move, and it literally felt like my experience of wearing a shoe that is way too small for my feet or that's not wide enough. I was in such horrible pain with every single step one time in a store that seemed like it must have been a quarter of a mile long, walking from one end to the next with somebody, and I had to stop in the shoe section, interestingly enough, because I don't know, my life sometimes manages to work in real life versions of literary humor. I had to stop in the shoe section because I realized I'm going to be in pain all day, and the pain was way too much and I couldn't take it anymore, so I stopped, and I literally am in the shoe section leaning on one of those huge supports, not completely because I didn't really trust it, but leaning on it enough so I didn't fall over. I had to unzip my knee-high boots that I was wearing and take my shoes off so I could take my socks off and put them neatly away someplace private with me, because I could not stand the horrendous pain. When I talk about the crushing, crunching thing, it's horrifying to me because I know there are people in real life and history where it's just been their life to have their feet go through something like that because of global tradition. And I just think about how in that store I couldn't stand it. Just over the course of what felt like it was a half an hour walking around, it got to the point where I did feel like I was gonna take my socks off and just be red and bruised and swollen after walking all day. I personally couldn't stand the pain. Thankfully, I had the option to take them off, but it's not my style to take off my shoes and socks in a store. I put the shoes back on, but I'm like, the level of pain. And I'm thinking about how some of us are out here and perhaps we do not have either a solid way to explain to somebody exactly what's happening to us in that moment, why we're that uncomfortable, that the pain is so bad that we're now afraid of the pain. But we still have to do something like that in order to survive, because survival instinct is screaming, oh my God, it hurts. And you're trying to control your face, but it hurts so much. I'm trying to keep it together in public. And I've learned all of my life, being neurodivergent at that point, having no idea, but being neurodivergent and knowing everything I did was looked at in a certain way, I've learned contain yourself, control yourself, don't throw your emotions out there. Don't let people see that you're wincing in pain. Don't put it, because it's like you're putting on a show, right? The lesson is, oh, what are you doing? You're doing that to get attention, right? Okay, well, you know, when people look at you, they're going to think of you this way. They're going to think you're trying to get attention. We're going to really draw attention to you, and they're going to think you're trying to draw attention to yourself. So I learned how to crush all of that stuff down and become just visually stoic and perfect and pleasing, because I personally, in my ADHD mind and heart, did not want people looking at me that much in the first place. And I definitely didn't want them having this slew of crazy thoughts that were so insane to me that everything I'm doing or experiencing as a separate human being from their life and their day is somehow all about them. Like everything I'm doing in my own actual real life is now somehow to elicit a reaction from their little brain. Like, it seems wicked. Like, I'm just going to be real. It seems really narcissistic to me to take everything somebody else does and 100% assume that it is to get a rise out of you or a reaction out of you or attention from you, and that is the only thing that anyone else is doing anything for. And that just seemed really freakish to me, and frankly, because of the experiences I'd already had in my life, I didn't want to trigger that anywhere. Now, I do get now that it's more like a cultural thing, and people have been taught this is how we interact, and we're doing this for a reason, and blah, blah, blah. But it seems harsh. It seems really harsh to teach people that every single thing you do, whether you're aware of it or not, or whether you know you're being witnessed or not, is somehow now about somebody else's perception of you. That's my own experience. And when I was in my store in those boots, I definitely was thinking, I really hope nobody is around here. I didn't see anybody, but I really hope no one is around here to see me taking off my shoes and socks at this store. But I also was thinking, I'm in the shoe section, so if somebody walks by, I don't know, maybe they think I'm just gonna try on a pair of shoes and everything is normal. It wasn't. That was a medical emergency for me right then. It was not a fashion emergency. I was not doing this for a new pair of heels. I was 100% doing this in order to save the heels that were attached to my own feet, although it was really my toes. So I lived my life like this. I try really hard never to be seen. And then all of a sudden I come to a place in my life where I realize that being seen is helping me and helping other people who are having experiences like me. This makes me want to speak.